Hey guys, we are here after 2 months of crazy cricketing action of the Indian Premier League, and this is Santadeep Day. Alongside me, I have correspondent Ayan Acharya and Lalith Kalidas, and we'll be discussing the major talking points of the season. Now, if we are talking about the IPL, we can't not start with the Gujarat Titans. Hardik Pandya in his first season as IPL captain led his side to a maiden title in their maiden season.
If we were to divide Gujarat's performance into three parts, that would be their power play bowling, which was of course piloted by Mohammad Shami, who was brilliant with the new ball, as well as at the death. But mainly his impact in the first 6 overs was what catapulted Gujarat into the playoffs and then ultimately to the title. Then they had the magical Rashid Khan, who, even when he's not picking wickets, is just so economical that he's creating pressure on the opposition. If you look at his spell in during the qualifier 1 and in the final as well, he didn't pick too many wickets, but just racking up the dot balls creates pressure on the batsman and allows the other spinner, in this case R. Sai Kishore, to take wickets. And of course they were led by the flamboyant Hardik Pandya, whose fitness and maturity as an athlete and as a leader shown throughout the season. It helped that he was clocking speeds of above 135, which is good news for Gujarat as well as Team India heading into the T20 World Cup later this year. But if you just leave aside the fact that he's a match winner on any given day with the bat, what I really liked about Hardik's performance throughout the season was his bowling and his willingness to bowl. Because of all the injury concerns he's had in the recent past, we've not seen him take the ball as regularly as we would have liked. But he, before the start of the season, of course, he had said that it was a surprise when asked whether he was going to bowl. Well, boy, and did he surprise us with his performance. Captaincy-wise, he was very, very calm. He did give away his recipe of leadership before the season began, and he stuck to it, and it worked for Gujarat. So all in all, a very, very impactful performance from a team that many didn't think would go all the way. But I guess that's what happens. It happened to Rajasthan Royals in the inaugural season, and here we are, Gujarat Titans winning the title on their debut.
Yeah, so firstly it was very interesting to see two teams approach the final with two different styles. Obviously Hardik was proactive in his leadership and his performances. But when you look at the numbers, Gujarat was the side with the least sixes hit during the tournament, with 75 sixes. But on the other hand, Rajasthan had a very aggressive approach where they hit over 130 sixes during the tournament. So, and Samson led the side with a sense of calmness, so that was a positive as well. But while looking at the playoffs, I don't think Rajasthan was able to handle the pressure and also adapt to the conditions which they were used to in Mumbai. If you look at the qualifier 1 performance as well, they were not able to put up enough runs on the board on a good batting surface at Eden Gardens. So similarly, I think Samson had the options in Trent Bolt, Ravichandran Ashwin and Yuzvendra Chahal, but simply couldn't find the necessary required results out of them during the last 2 matches, and basically that hampered their chances. Also, I think the batting itself, they couldn't adapt. Barring Jos Buttler, none of them could adapt to the conditions where they could actually produce similar results how they used to in the league stages, where they had this aggressive approach. And I think in the final as well, Sanju Samson should have curbed his natural instincts a little bit, given that they have a brittle middle order hinging on young players, especially like Padikal, Riyan Parag and Hetmeyer, who had gone off the boil since his return from a short break. And also, I think Gujarat was particularly effective when it came to negating Ashwin and Chahal in those conditions. I think among them, between them, they could only pick up 1 wicket.
Right.
So I think that was pretty effective in like nullifying everything that Rajasthan had planned for. And I also think the number 6 slot, where they have banked on Riyan Parag, I think it was a bold call, but it didn't work out in the finals, especially I think where they lacked out and out all-rounder or a death over specialist. So I think moving forward in the next year, that's something that the Royals would want to work on, like bringing in a X-factor player for that number 6 slot, and or a death over specialist, because we've seen Chahal being used more often in the death, and Samson had to rely on Trent Bolt up in the power play. So I think one fast bowling all-rounder would help the Royals do better next season.
But do you think Riyan Parag deserves more chances, given that the traditionalists look at his celebrating the dismissals in a not so kind way?
I mean, it's in a way it's good. Royals have backed him for so long, but the fact that he's come in, I mean, it is a difficult job to succeed at as a finisher. So they've thrown him at the deep end, but it's up to them how they see him next year. What they lack is like I said, is a true all-rounder. So where would that all-rounder slot in? And would he get a promotion? Especially we see that Devdutt Padikkal and Yashasvi Jaiswal, they have two left-handed options. So will they actually slot in one at the top alongside Buttler and maybe give a promotion to Riyan Parag? I think that would depend on who comes in. As an
I agree that Riyan Parag has been given too little to.
Yeah, just to add to his point, just one quick point. Rajasthan Royals had Ben Stokes, who was playing that role at number 6. He was promoted up the order to open, but someone of that caliber, that X factor, who can take away the game at number 6. Most teams, Gujarat, for instance, had a flurry of finishers in Tewatia, and Miller. So I absolutely agree with Lalith here in terms of just finding an apt all-rounder for that number 6 slot will be on top of Rajasthan's priority list ahead of next season, because it is vitally important, more so when you have such a strong top order which is giving you such good starts. But if you're fizzling out because of lack of a genuine hard hitter at the depth, then well, you have yourself to blame.
Yeah, but that Parag innings was impressive against
absolutely.
on a difficult way.
Yeah, absolutely. He's young; he'll be given his chances, but
we do need.
Yeah.
So moving on from that, the Rajasthan Royals and Gujarat Titans talk. We also have to look at the pacers, the number of pacers that we got in this IPL. Impressive performance from all of them, including Umran Malik, who won the Emerging Player of the Year award and lost his fastest delivery title to Lockie Ferguson in the very last match.
Yeah.
Then you also have Avish Khan and Mohsin Khan. So
this year's IPL goes, I think, the standout for me was the clique of uncapped Indian fast bowlers. It was heartening to see the keeper stand near the 30-yard circle when Umran Malik was steaming in. You don't see that too often with Indian quicks. And to see him close in on the 150 kilometer mark and then breach it rather regularly was not only
reaching 155.
Exactly. So he was breaching 155, reached 157. So it was not just exhilarating to watch, but just also showed what sheer pace can do. Of course, everyone, all the experts on air, including Ian Bishop, who's been following all these uncapped Indian fast bowlers rather closely, is of the opinion that he needs to work on his line and length. But we've all seen what just sheer pace can do. He's hurried batters with his speed and his ability to exploit that back of the length and short length deliveries. That last game, MI versus MI versus SRH, where he troubled Rohit Sharma, who is one of the best pullers of the short ball, with his pace and his accurate bouncers. Even Ishan Kishan was in the firing lane. So and because of those performances, he's now part of India's squad for the T20Is against South Africa. So that's great news, not just for Umran Malik but for Indian cricket as well. Second pacer who has been a standout for a couple of seasons now, but really took his game up a few notches is Arshdeep Singh, who again is part of the Indian team for the South Africa T20s. Now, what I really like about him is the fact that he just tends to fly under the radar. You won't really hear, the commentators, falling head over heels talking about his bowling, but he bowls those hard overs. He will, KL Rahul when he was the captain of Punjab Kings, and now Mayank Agarwal, they've turned to him when the team has needed, if not wickets, then economical overs, and he'll give you those. He had, I reckon, the second best economy rate at the death, and that's which is under 8, which is extremely impressive. And his ability, and he's not just running in and bowling yorkers. He's trying to gauge what a batsman is trying to do. Whenever he sees someone like DINESH KARTHIK, for instance, who can hit a ball from outside of over square leg, how do you bowl to him? So that ability to adjust within that space of 6 balls was marvelous. He was sometimes skipping the ball away from the hitting arc, sometimes bowling the yorker, sometimes even foxing the batsman with his field settings. Because if you're setting a field with 2 fielders back on the hook and then suddenly you slip in a yorker, then you are outthinking the batsman. He's shown the ability to do that. So it holds great promise for him as well as the Indian team. And last but not least, Mohsin Khan. I mean, that bowling performance against RCB in the eliminator, where Rajat Patidar went hammer and tongs, throughout the 20 overs. He went for less than 7 runs and over, took wickets as well. So that was a standout performance. And he's bowling, if I'm not mistaken, from a very short run up. So that's again very similar to what we have seen with someone who's now really seasoned campaigner, Jasprit Bumrah. So that got me really excited. The fact that he was able to generate so much pace. He's got a very clean action as well. So yeah, Arshdeep, Umran, Mohsin, standout performance with the ball for me, and augurs well for Indian cricket.
Yeah, also about Mohsin, it's very surprising how he started off. You're talking about pace.
Yeah.
Firstly, we used to mention him as a medium pace bowler, and then he started cranking it up in the upwards of 145s, 150s.
Yeah.
So that was great. And also the fact that KL Rahul mentioned the fact in one of the presentations, ceremony, saying that he's actually scared of facing Mohsin Khan in the nets. I think you had told me once about how a medium pacer who bowls the right line and lengths is always more dangerous than
And this is something that even Glenn McGrath, who runs the MRF Pace Academy in Chennai, advocates. He says if you are hitting the right lines and lengths, you could be dangerous bowling 135, 136. You need not be 150 plus. Even Mohammad Shami, in fact, recently during a chat had said that you need not always clock 150 plus. If you hit the right lengths, 142, and you can trouble the batsman. And we all have seen how Shami does that day in, day out, and so does Bumrah. So we already have. Now these are very fulfilling times for Indian cricket, because you see your spin, you see your spin bowling cupboard full of options. But now you have a fast bowling cupboard that's not just full of options, but it's overbrimming. So with a World Cup coming up, the selectors of course are spoiled for choice.
We can also not ignore a classic spin attack which has again come back in the spotlight. Lalith will tell us more about it.
Yeah, so it was a very prolific run for Yuzvendra Chahal and Kuldeep Yadav. Both of them had their best seasons with the ball in the IPL. And particularly looking at Chahal's performance, I couldn't help but think about how did he miss the cut for the last World Cup. Since the 2016, ever since the 2016 World Cup, over a 5-year cycle, Chahal was part of the limited over setup, and right before the World Cup, a lean patch in the second half of the previous IPL, and he was completely out of the radar. So he's bounced back very quickly, and he's also found the backing once again from the team management, and I think. And even at Royals, he was one of the prime weapons with the ball for Samson. And the records are there to see. He broke the record for most wickets by a spinner, took 27 wickets. And also, he was particularly, especially used at the death overs. That was something very interesting to see. More spinners have been used in the death overs this time. So, the lack of a proper death over bowler for Rajasthan had Samson go with this choice, and he delivered, especially if you look at the game against Kolkata. They nearly had the game in their hands, and Chahal came back with a brilliant spell to pick up 4 wickets in that 1 over, including a hat-trick, and also dismissed the dangerous Shreyas Iyer. So he's backed his comeback into the Indian squad with sheer performance. And there's no doubt that he would be the leading spinner heading into the World Cup. Now it's up to him to make the chances count with the performances against South Africa and England. And looking at Kuldeep, again, it's the first time he's taken over 20 wickets in a season, and I think he's come into the IPL with some confidence from the new Indian captain as well. Rohit Sharma has backed both of them as key bowlers in the setup, and yeah, so again he's got back a spot in the Indian T20I series, and I think this series is particularly going to be more important for Kuldeep than Chahal, because I don't think India will have the luxury of playing two spinners in
Australia.
In Australia, they will have one all round. They would prefer a pace bowling all rounder in Hardik. So let's see how it goes.
Yeah. So just to quickly add to them, it's a very interesting enigma because heading into the last T20 World Cup, Ashwin was the key spinner, so they banked on off spins. And there were questions about whether the trend is moving away from leg spin. And now within a matter of just 6-7 months, we are back to leg spinners. And as Lalith correctly pointed out, they wouldn't want to play two spinners. And they have plenty of fast bowling all-round options to go with. So now the question mark is what do you do with Ravichandran Ashwin, who until recently was, well, your premier white ball spinner in at the World Cup. So yeah, it's going to be a toss-up between, by the looks of it, for the playing 11 between him, Kuldeep, and Chahal. Chahal, I feel, will go, but as with most things in Indian cricket, you never know. Selectors tend to throw a spanner at your playing 11. So yeah, and Kuldeep, I think before the auctions as well, former Indian bowling coach Bharat Arun had said that the short break that Kuldeep took actually would have helped him, because leg spin is a terribly terribly is the wrong word, is a very, very tough art, and they are supposed to be the attacking options. They're always going for wickets, and as a result they also get taken for runs. So Mr. Arun was of the opinion that you have to keep constantly evolving, because batters are going to figure you out. Chahal did that. One of the reasons why he was so successful was because of the pace that he was bowling, and we saw that with Kuldeep as well. He increased his pace significantly during this season, and this is my opinion. I feel it also helped that he was part of a Delhi Capitals team that was led by someone who's been in the position that Kuldeep is, albeit as a batter. He's faced so much criticism for his batting style, still does, and he has evolved. He's still a work in progress, is Rishabh Pant. But I think it helped that he had a skipper who perhaps understands better than others what it is to be in the firing lane and bouncing back
also
from there.
didn't get many chances in his
Exactly. Yeah.
And
So
Pant backed him.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Talking about the flight to Australia later this year, we also have one more candidate who has presented a very strong option, and the selectors are again spoiled for choice. You don't know who to place in the middle of it. And it's DINESH KARTHIK.
Right.
What has he done?
Well, he's done pretty much everything, hasn't he? He wanted to make a case for himself. He's moved from one commentary box to another, and then he was carrying his kit in England when India visited England. Lest he gets a call. He's been trying his best. He's made no two ways about it. He's been talking about it in the press. He has said that he wants to play for India again, and well, he's got a chance. He's part of the T20 squad for the South Africa series, and rightly so. So what DINESH KARTHIK achieved with RCB, and rather RCB achieved through DINESH KARTHIK, their third straight playoff performance was really impressive. And I felt one of the key reasons Bangalore did as well as it did was because of the Indian talent they had, and primarily DINESH KARTHIK in that number 6, number 7 position that is so important in T20 cricket. We just discussed it a few minutes back, and Karthik played that role to perfection. He is the T20 finisher in every sense possible, and the way he tackled pace was really, really impressive. At one point, his overall strike rate was above 200 for the large part of the tournament, and he was scoring at 14.7 runs an over against pace, which was the fastest scoring rate for any batter who had faced a minimum of 200 balls in this IPL, which is phenomenal. And RCB used him every which way, didn't they? They held him back till the Pacers came on to bowl. He was sent sent up the batting order to arrest slides, and he had an answer for every question that was thrown his way. Of course, towards the business end of the tournament, there were a few lean patches, but that is expected in a long tournament like this.
No, but that also, you're talking about, sorry to
Yeah.
but the lean patch started when, Karthik was unwell
Right.
in one of the games.
Right.
I don't remember which
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
but he was unwell. He had to go off in the
Right.
second innings. He didn't
Right.
even keep, and
Right.
they had to bring in
Right.
Rawat. So,
Yeah.
maybe that started from there. We
Yeah.
never know. So, yeah.
Yeah, but also impressive was the relentless nature of his onslaught, because
Yeah.
he didn't waste any balls. It's very important, especially when you're batting at number 6, number 7, and you're coming out with say about 30 balls left. You really don't get a chance to get sighters, do you? So you have to be on the move from ball 1, which is exactly what DINESH KARTHIK did. And being the experienced campaigner that he is, his reading of the game is also very good. When he against the game against Lucknow Super Giants, where Rajat Patidar was playing really well and had scored 100, he realized that Patidar was hitting the ball really well, and he didn't really hog this. He tried a couple of times, a few agricultural strokes, didn't connect, and then realized that it's important to get Rajat back on strike. So he started rotating the strike, which is the mark of a really seasoned campaigner who understands his game inside out. Just because he's playing so well doesn't mean he'll have to hog the strike when you have a batsman at the other end who's batting on 100 plus. So yeah, I mean, if you look at for a country that has arguably quote unquote the best T20 league in the world, India's T20 game, Team India's T20 game seems to be a throwback to an older time.
Traditional, traditional approach,
So in that mold, I think DINESH KARTHIK is a breath of fresh air.
Talking about breath of fresh air, there is one more batter who delivered for the Mumbai Indians, although the team did not make it to the playoffs. It's Tilak Verma. Guys, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, so it's been a horrendous season for Mumbai Indians, their worst ever campaign, over 15 editions.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, one of the few bright spots of the season has been Tilak Verma.
Yes.
Mumbai's scouting got its choice once again bang on. One of the few things which stood out is that he wasn't flustered, be it pace or spin, and he came in at very precarious situations and held one end firm. When you look at the numbers, he had third best season ever for an uncapped batsman in his debut season, scoring around 400 runs, 397 to be precise. And I think, once again Mumbai, despite having such a season, I think they've got at least 2 to 3 batters to bank on for the next decade or so, in Deval Brevis and Tilak Verma to lead it. Also we have Tim David, who would, I think, be slotted above Kyron Pollard from the upcoming seasons. So I think, they'll have to work around their bowling, overseas options to back Jasprit Bumrah, and we don't know what's going to happen with Jofra Archer.
Yeah. Well guys, that will be all from our side. If you have any feedback, do drop your replies in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube, and if you are watching it on our website, then do DM us on our social media handles. Keep following Sportstar for your daily doses of sports. This is Santadeep with
Ayan Acharya
and
And Lalith.
signing off.